Hi, folks, and welcome to another episode of The Franchise Entrepreneur. And I am Des Phoebe. And today, I just want to carry on a little bit from the previous podcast talking about the cash burn. So, if you recall on the last podcast, I was telling you that we were now in the process of mapping out financially mapping out our business on the basis that we're looking to reopen some of our stores, if not all of our stores, and what the impact of social distancing will have on our stores. Now, as part of that process, we have to look at each individual store, individual restaurant, look at the floor plan, map out the physical journey of the customer in order to see how many customers we can get into each store whilst complying with the 2 meter social distancing rule, and what that does in terms of the number of customers that we can serve in any one period of time. And then that will give us an idea of what kind of financial expectations that we can have, and also then factor in a number of other variables, which are things like how many people are literally going to be willing to come back into restaurants. It's not practical or sensible to be basing it upon figures that were there previously and footfall that was there previously. We're going to have to make some sort of estimate on, a reduction in footfall anyway, and the amount of people that are going to be on high streets. Just little things like students not being around in some of our locations that were previously there. A lot of people won't be back to work fully. So all of these is a little bit of guesswork and a little bit of estimates to give us an overall picture of what we should expect. Now, it kind of brings me to what I think is a really important element of the reopening, and that is that people's impatience to get open. And of course, look, if you're in the food and beverage business and you've got restaurants, we're all itching to get our restaurants and food places open again. We haven't gone into business in order to have them shut and sit on our hands and hang around and wait for something to happen. We want to get them open. We want our business to be open. That's why we went into business. We want them to be serving customers, and we want to be generating income and just getting on with life. However, the circumstances are such that impatience could end up being the ruin of a lot of us. I know that we're all clambering to try and get back into it, but if you carry out the exercise that I've just carried out, then you'll see how important it really is to make sure that the timing is right to open your stores. Now, most of mine are quick service restaurants, although we do have obviously a sit down pizzeria as well. And I've done the process of financially mapping out what each store is likely to take in terms of sales if we opened up. And if we based it on opening up in the next, say, couple of weeks, then the figures don't look great. And we are probably in a better position than most because we're quick service, which means that, some of our overheads are lower. We could probably serve more customers, but equally our stores are small. And that does put some limitations on how many customers we can serve at any one time. Now, normally you would, get as many customers in as possible, serve as many customers as possible, and get them back out the door as quickly as possible. Social distancing changes all of that. So it takes away a lot of our advantage in terms of advantage over restaurants. And having now carried out the exercise, of most of our stores, and certainly, I've carried out the exercise on the stores that we are responsible for running ourselves. And of about 15 odd restaurants, or just under 15, the percentages are that only about 20% of those stores will actually make a profit if we opened up under the scenarios that I've factored in. Another 50% of them will probably break even, and that leaves the rest of them that will lose money, and that gives us our cash drain. Add to that then our normal overheads that are our central office and our management team and an admin team that are based in our office, that gives us a fairly significant cash burn. So if we opened up all of our stores straight away, we'd be burning cash quite considerably. So this is where the impatience comes into it. I know we're all impatient to get our stores and restaurants open, but it's really important to work out the cash burn, because we have to remember that the furlough at the moment, as it stands, that the government are paying for us to furlough our staff until the end of June. Now, the business environment may look a little bit different. The landscape may look a little bit different at the end of June. Things may be a little bit better. Some of the restrictions may have been loosened a little bit in terms of social distancing, which may then change the financial outlook of some of those stores. So it's certainly a case of I'm going to be very picky and choosy in terms of what stores I'm going to open up. So it will be a slow process. There's no flick of a switch here and all stores will open up, because we've got to protect our cash position. So obviously, first and foremost, we're going to open up the stores that we know can make money. Secondly, we'll look at the second bunch of stores and look at it in terms of, okay, if we've looked at that and we opened them up as normal, we'd lose money. Can we open them up with reduced hours? How about if they stay as they are and only do a delivery model? It's difficult, because even the stores that we've got open at the moment that are, wiping their face and maybe making a little bit of money, it's all through delivery model. And the more stores that open up and more competition that opens up, the reality is that those stores are going to probably take less and less money in terms of deliveries. So we have to factor that in as well. So this is not an easy exercise whatsoever. We are all in a very difficult position, and we're all going to have to make some really fairly significant estimates and guesses in terms of the full impact of opening up our stores. And that's why it's very important to not rush into it and open up too many too quickly, which was my initial hope, that we could get open as many as possible very quickly. But having now done this exercise and all the variables that are involved, and there are considerable variables, you can model this as much as you want, but no one's going to have a model that will take into account all the variables, because you simply just don't know the impact of it. Some of it will be impacted by how many other restaurants will be opening up, which is completely out of your control. If your model has changed from, which ours has, from say maybe 30% deliveries to obviously 100% deliveries, and the reason that those have been busy is because so many other restaurants just weren't open and weren't carrying out deliveries. If the government give the nod for more and more to open up, then obviously more of those stores are going to open up. The competition is going to increase. It's inevitable that those delivery numbers will reduce, coming back closer to what was your original numbers of 30% against 70% walk-in. So, those are unknowns, and it makes sense to only open up a couple of stores initially and see what the impact is having on those. Because once you've got a template of what is actually happening on the ground, then you can change your model to suit, and you've got more live information in order to make the right decisions, whilst protecting your cash, because the cash burn is the most important point here. The government hopefully is still going to be paying wages up till the end of June, so that gives you some time. It gives you some time to open up a couple of stores. It's a sensible approach, and see what the impact. Then you can model it more accurately in order to see what the impact will be of opening up the rest of your stores. And you've still got some time, so don't be too impatient to open up your stores or your restaurants. Obviously, if you've only got one and you're working in it, you're in a better position, because you can see that live information immediately, and you've only got the one to worry about. But those of you that have got multiple stores like us, then it's a sensible approach to do one, model it, see what impact it's having, and you've got the time to do that, because you're getting some of your, or a significant amount of your costs paid for. And if you've managed to do some deals with your landlords, then the next quarter is not due until July, which again falls in line with the furloughing. So, use this time wisely. Get one of your restaurants open, get live information, remodel that based upon, hopefully you've already been doing some modeling anyway. And hopefully by the time we get to the end of June, the country is in a bit of a better state in terms of the coronavirus and some of the restrictions. Maybe with masks being worn, the social distancing will be reduced from 2 meters. Who knows? We've got 2 months until the end of June. We may be looking at a different landscape then, and give us a better outlook in terms of our restaurants and what they might end up looking like in terms of the financial mapping. Because at the moment, if I based it on the exercise that I've just done, it doesn't look very good. And I think my restaurants are actually in a better position than most. So it's pretty grim for some of the other full sit-down restaurants out there. But look, we do have a bit of time. Our biggest costs are our wages and obviously our rents. And if we've managed to do some deals there, then hopefully some of you are feeling a little bit less pressured to get those stores open. And equally, with the announcement of the bounce back loans and obviously your grants that have kicked in, hopefully some of you have got some cash now, but the important thing is obviously retaining that. So the last thing you want to do is open up too quickly and be hit with all of these costs being turned back on and a very, very much reduced footfall and, financial impact and health of your business. So, my advice is that, do those things that I've just suggested, look to be a bit patient. I know it's difficult. If you've got multiple stores, open up one, map that financial activity out, see how it's changing over the next coming weeks, because it will change. Your business may go from 100% delivery back down to and smaller percentages as more competition opens up. You'll see what's happening on high street. You'll see whether the confidence is there for customers to go back into restaurants. You'll see that confidence hopefully coming back more and more over the weeks, which will then give you more confidence to open up some of your restaurants. But at the moment, the government is still offering to pay the furloughing. So, keep your costs under control, keep hold of your cash, avoid the cash burn for as long as possible, and use this period to map out the scope and the activity that's coming through your business. And that's what we're going to do. I think again, every time I carry out one of these exercises, it does change my outlook and my view on how I'm going to open up my stores. And you have to do it almost every week because the environment is changing almost every week. We will have an announcement from Boris Johnson next week. What's that going to bring? We're all hoping that there's going to be some relaxation, but things like wearing masks may have an impact, and it may just have an impact in terms of people's mindset. It may give people more confidence to walk around town, go into the high street, visit restaurants more often if they're allowed to open. Some of that is just almost a placebo effect, that whether you believe the masks make a big difference or not, it may give people more confidence, and maybe that's the crucial part of the masks. But let's wait and see what happens next week, and again, I'll probably be remapping out my forecasts once again based upon whatever the Prime Minister comes out with. But I do think we are likely to be in a position where he will loosen the restrictions a little bit, which will enable us to open up some of our restaurants. But let's not be too impatient and too hasty. Cash burn is absolutely your priority, and keeping that under control. And definitely look at these bounce back loans. I mean, the interesting thing is I read an article on it just the other day, because my bank have gone very, very quiet on it. And the article that I read was basically that the banks are still being reluctant to even issue these bounce back ones without the government giving them an indemnity against bad loans. So they're scared that they will give these loans out because the government has said you need to get this money out and get it under and get them out quickly under the simplified forms. But the banks are concerned that there will be maybe fraud, or there will also be loans going out to unviable companies, and they don't want any comeback on it from the government. So until they get that indemnity, these loans could be delayed. But when they do come about, then you've got to go for it, really, I think. Whether you want them or not, and I don't think any of us want to take on any more debt, but the reality is the position that we're in, we've got to build up cash reserves, because we're in for a rocky road over the next 6 to 12 months. So cash is king, as they say. Anyway, look, I hope you again found this interesting, and that it was of use to you. Keep on mapping out your financials on your business. It's a changing world. It's changing on a regular basis. Don't be impatient. The timing of you opening up your restaurants is crucial to your cash burn. So bear it in mind. Make sure you don't rush into opening up too many stores in a too short a period, and trial out opening up just one and mapping that out. So, take care of yourself, stay safe, and I will talk to you again on Monday with the next episode of The Franchise Entrepreneur.